Hello to you. Now, in this lesson, we would like to look at algebraic expressions, just a little bit about algebraic expressions. We discussed a few things about algebraic expressions previously, but we are going to add, one or two more concepts in this. Then we continue, okay? We will first introduce or at least remind ourselves what this general thing is, the related concepts that we looked at last time, before we can do what? Before we can move into some new additional concepts that we are going to be looking at today. So yes, the question is, what is an algebraic expression? What do we mean when we talk of an algebraic expression? Well, generally an algebraic expression is very much like a description, okay? It's like a description of certain calculations that have to be done in a certain order, okay? So it's something that we basically deal with on a daily basis. You want to have something done, you know how to do it, and then you know that it follows this pattern. You first do this before you do that. Then after doing this, you do that. Think of it this way. You wake up early in the morning, you know you have to go to school, or you know you have to attend lessons. So the question here is, as soon as you wake up in the morning, what do you start with? Well, maybe brushing teeth, or maybe going to the showers, or maybe dressing up, or maybe doing that, you see? So a description of what has got to be done and the order in which they have to be done, okay? There are some things that you cannot skip. There are some things that have to follow the other before they are done, So there is what you do first before you do the second thing. And in algebraic expressions, we also talk of it that way as a description of certain calculations that have to be done in a particular order. Now, here before us is a table which has got some few descriptions of algebraic expressions. The first column has got the words describing the what? The calculations that we have got to do. Then the flow diagram, that is, where do we start from? How is it supposed to continue? Then the next is the mathematical expression of our description. So the thing that we want to start by looking at is, when we look at the first description, well, it's saying multiply a number by 2, okay? Multiply a number by 2. It's like trying to say, think of a number, have 2 of those numbers. That's the meaning of multiplying the number by 2. It's like, let that number become 2 of that number. So you had a number, now you have to have another number, okay? So it's like, well, 2 of that number, that's like multiplying it by 2, and to what you have multiplied, add 6. So how do we get that? Well, we get 2 times that number plus 6, which is what we are having right here in the expression. Then the second one is, which we are now calling add 3 to a number, okay? This one now we have to provide solution for it. The thing is, add 3 to a number. So think of a number like x, okay? Now onto x, we have to do what? We have to add 3 to it. It's like trying to say, well, to this x, we want to add 3. Then we multiply the answer by 2. Now here, this is what we have got. We got a number, and this number, we added 3 to it. Now they're again saying, onto this, we have to do what? We have to multiply by 2. So what this then means is, well, after getting this, we now have to multiply the whole thing by 2. Now notice, the reason we are putting this inside the bracket is, if you add 3 to a number, okay, if you add 3 to a number, very much like, well, add 3 to a number, we could first write like this: add 3 to a number, that is plus 3 to some number, like that. Then multiply the answer by 2. The answer is going to be 3 plus that number. Then 3 plus that number must be multiplied by 2. We have to put it inside the bracket, because if we don't put it inside the bracket, it will change the whole meaning. In other words, if we multiply 2 by x, then we leave the other 3 separately, not having it inside the bracket, the mathematical meaning will change. And that's the reason we have to put it inside the bracket. So in the second question, well, in the second question, what do we have? We don't have the description in words, but we have this times 5, then minus 1, which we could say multiply a number by 5. Okay? So in words, will be like multiply a number. Just think of any number, multiply a number by 5. Yes. Then subtract 1 from the answer. Then subtract 1 from the answer. What this means is that multiplying any number by 5 means, if we think of a number like x, now this number that we have got, which is x, we have to do what? We have to multiply it by what? By 5. So what this means then is that x, let's reduce this to 18. Yes, this number, which is x, has got to be multiplied with what? With 5. So we have x times 5, that is 1. Then onto this, we have to add what? We have to add 1. Rather, we subtract 1. We subtract 1 from it. Well, we could have put this inside the bracket. We could have put this number times 5 inside the bracket. But notice that even if we don't put it inside the bracket, okay? Even if we don't put it inside the bracket, it will not change the algebraic meaning. It will not change the mathematical meaning of this whole thing. In other words, we can simplify what we have on the left-hand side as 5x minus 1. Then for C, well, for C, what do we have? For C, we have on the right-hand side, already we have 7 plus 4x. So it's like trying to say, in this case, we could either say multiply a number by 4. That is this part here of 4 times x. Then add 7 onto the answer. Or we could also say onto 7, add 4 times a number. Okay? That is onto 7, on top of 7, okay? What are we going to do? We add 4 times a number. We add 4 times a number. Or we would rather say multiply a number by 4. A number by 4. Then then add 7 to the answer. Add 7 to the what? To the answer. That is what we have. Then add 7 to the what? To the answer. Yes. And mathematically, that can be written as 4 times what? 4 times a number, which is 4 times a number. Then onto it we add 7. Now, this one is a description for what? For the second part. Now, notice there isn't a problem. You could put this inside the bracket. It's still perfectly fine. Okay, it's just fine. And we can still simplify this to what? We can still simplify this to 4x plus 7. That is what we would get. Now, notice that. Let's make this a little bit big in size. Now, notice that the upper one, that onto 7, add 4 times a number. Mathematically, we would like to have it as onto 7, that is onto 7. 7 comes first. Add what? 4 times a number. 4 times a number. Now notice that you could put this one also inside the bracket. It's still fine. There isn't any problem with it. Or you could make it out of the bracket. And this means we can then simplify this to 7 plus 4x. Now notice that this expression is the same as the last expression, which we just got. Okay. This expression here, highlighted in blue, is the same as the other expression. The only difference is, how we described the mathematical procedure in words, the mathematical description in words. Now, the other thing we don't want to miss is the last one, which has got 10 minus 5x. Well, we could say multiply a number by 5. Subtract the answer from 10. You see? Multiply a number by 5. Yes, that is one thing. Then subtract the answer from 10. What this means is that we have to multiply a number by 5, okay? That is, multiply a number by 5. So you think of a number, then you multiply this number by 5, okay? That's the first thing that we want to think of. Then after this, you want to subtract, okay? You want to subtract this 10, rather you want to do what? You want to subtract the answer from 10. To subtract the answer from 10 means you will have 10 minus this. That's the meaning of subtract this answer from 10. Yes, that is what we mean by algebraic expressions in words. That is getting it from words and converting them into mathematical expressions. And precisely that's where we would like to stop for now. Our next discussion will be about evaluating algebraic expressions, meaning now that we have known a description of how to carry out a calculation, if we now know this other unknown number, how would we like to continue? Now that is called evaluation of algebraic expression, which is supposed to come in the next lesson.